The income statement's starting to come together, but unfortunately, we also need to calculate what our tax is. So here, let's enter the equal sign, and here I'll select the profit on chocolate chip. And I want to multiply it by the tax rate over here. So what is the multiplication sign? Is it an X? No, it's actually the asterisk. To multiply, you enter in the asterisk symbol. And here I'll multiply the profit by the tax rate of 10%. Then I'll hit the tab key, and here we see that the tax is 0.6. Now, just like we've been doing all along, I want to calculate the tax across all of these different cookie types and also the total column. So here I'll select the fill handle and let's just pull it over. But that's weird. Why am I getting 0 back? That doesn't make sense. Well, let's double click into the cell to see what happened. So here, as I pulled this over, it adjusted all the references relatively. So here we're looking at the profit for oatmeal raisin, and that's right. But when we look over at the tax rate, it moved over one. I actually want to lock the reference to this specific cell. So right here in the formula, let's try this again. Let's click into the first formula right here. Let's double click in, and here this reference, we want this to move as we go over. So we're going to leave this as is. But if we want to lock the reference to H5, or if we want to make it what's called an absolute reference, we need to add a character to lock it. And in Excel, we can enter in the $ in front of the column to lock the column and in front of the row to lock the row. And then I can hit the Enter key. And now when I pull it over, you'll notice that the tax is properly calculated. Here, if I click into the oatmeal raisin profit, I'll double click in. Here you see that this reference is now absolute and it's locked, while the C7 is a relative reference and it moves as I move across. Now, one shortcut that you can use, let's click up in the formula bar up above. I can press the F4 key, and here that'll toggle it off on the column. If I press it again, it'll leave it on the column but not the row, and if I press it again, it'll remove it. Here, if I press F4 again, here it'll turn it on for both the column and the row. It's a neat shortcut key to know to lock an absolute reference. Now, I just realized that we actually have another sheet in this workbook called the Name Manager, and here I have the tax rate listed. So instead of referencing this tax rate, I want to reference the tax rate on a completely separate sheet. So here, let's delete the tax that we already calculated, and here let's enter the equal sign once again. Here I'll click on the profit, enter the asterisk, and I want to multiply against the tax rate on a different sheet. Here I'll click on the other sheet, select this cell, and here you see the formula up above. So I'm taking cell B7 and I'm multiplying it by the Name Manager worksheet, and on this worksheet by cell C5. Now I could hit the Enter key, and this once again calculates the tax. Now here, just like we did before, I also want to lock this reference. I'll click up in the formula bar, and let's use that shortcut key that we just learned about. Let's press the F4 key, and that makes it an absolute reference. I'll hit Enter, and here, just like we've been doing, we could use the fill handle to pull it across, and there we get the tax across all of these cookies. Especially when you start to reference a lot of different items, and maybe they happen to be on different worksheets, the formula bar can get somewhat convoluted, and it's hard to know what exactly you're referencing. So instead, we can give our reference a name. Let's click back into the Name Manager worksheet, and let's click into the tax rate cell. Here, this is cell C5. Let's look back in the top left-hand corner at the name box, and let's give this cell a name. I'll call this tax rate, and then hit Enter. Let's go back to the formula sheet. And now, instead of referencing the worksheet and the cell, let's delete that, and instead I can type in tax rate, hit Enter, and that works just like before, but if we look at the formula, it's a little bit cleaner and also easier to understand. As you're entering in a formula, you might not always remember what are all of the different names that you've assigned. Let's delete this and try once again. I'll enter in the equal sign, and I want to take the profit and I want to multiply it by the tax rate, but I don't remember what that cell was named. I can press the function 3 key or the F3 key, and that'll open up the Name Manager with all of the different names that I've defined. And here I see the tax rate. I can simply double click on that, and here that inserts it into my formula. Now I'll press Enter, and here I can drag it across to all of these other columns. Now the nice thing here is it simply refers to that name, and I don't have to worry about making it an absolute reference. I think that's a little bit easier, and it's also cleaner in the formula.